This is the LazerBros podcast. This is our first episode, episode 1, and today we are going to be predicting the divisions for the upcoming 2022 NFL season. Luke, how excited are you for the season, and what are you most looking forward to?
I'm excited. It's just thinking about watching football on Sundays all day Sunday. I'm just trying to see. It's going to be a weird year. There's a lot of interesting teams going on, a lot of close calls, close divisions. I'm just excited for the mayhem that'll ensue.
So, are you ready to start?
Yeah, let's roll.
So today we're going to start. So we're going to do each conference, and we're going to do from worst division to best division each conference.
In our opinion.
Yes. So the first division we'll be starting with is the NFC East. Luke, who do you have finishing last in this division?
So who I have finishing last? Washington Commanders. I have them finishing last. I actually think they'll probably be near the top of the draft. It's one of the worst records, and I think they have a lot of issues, and I do not think they're going to do well, even in this poor division.
I agree with some of your points there, but I think the Giants have too much things going on right now. I think as long as they have Danny Nichols back there, they're not going to be able to do much from a competitive standpoint. So I think that probably holds them back, despite the fact that they hired Dable this season.
I don't know. Even if he is Danny Nichols, I still have faith in him as Danny Dimes. I'll take him over Carson Wentz. What Carson Wentz did last year with the Colts was just unbearable. He choked that Jacksonville game. He had every right to be. They should have won the division. I guess the Titans were good last year, but they should have been competing for the division. It's one of the better teams, and he completely blew it. And I don't trust him. I don't trust their defense. Has some talent, but I just don't think it's as good as people think. The O-line's not great. They're having this running back issue. I do like Terry and Jahan Dotson, but I don't see any bright spots besides those two. And Jahan's young, so it may take him a year.
So do you think there's any chance that they can get third in this division, or what do you kind of see as their ceiling or their floor in this division?
I mean, I'm pretty set on them being last. Is there the chance that the Giants are just terrible? Yes. I don't like to admit it, but yes, there is. But I still believe most likely we're going to see Washington last place in the division, and then with the Giants following them with a somewhat decent record.
Yeah, I just feel like, I think it's kind of close on the quarterback discussion when you talk about Daniel Jones and Carson Wentz. I kind of think with the Giants situation, I like their coach better, but it's just a feeling of the Giants. They've not been good for about, I don't know, it's been quite some time, maybe like 10 years since they've actually been good. I think they have weapons that they have, but Kenny Galladay, we have yet to see him produce in a Giants uniform. Kadarius Toney's constantly dealing with injuries. And when he is on the field, he does produce, but we haven't seen him on the field enough to know if he will be consistent enough. And then I think they're too young a team, and the quarterback situation, I do not have any confidence in Daniel Jones. He completed about 65% of his passes last year, but he just has too many turnovers, and fumbling is also a major issue in his game.
I think this is the best team he's been surrounded by, especially with Dable. I think Saquon's going to have a good year. Kadarius hopefully stays healthy. Kenny G is really, it seems like there's nothing good going on for him, but Wendell maybe something. They're so young. If Kayvon and young picks can work out, I think they can be all right.
Their offensive line is also on the up and coming. They have Andrew Thomas at left tackle, I believe, and then they drafted the name's slipping my head.
Evan Neal.
Yep. And so I think when you have your tackles in place, that can kind of build a foundation for a good offensive line. But Daniel Jones, I do not have confidence in at all.
Yeah, this has to be his year.
So in third place, I'm assuming that we have our third place is flip flop. Then
yeah,
you have the Giants and I have the Washington Commanders.
Yes.
Okay, so we've kind of touched on both those teams. Who do you have in second place?
Second, well, I have Dallas and I have Eagles winning the division. I'm not high on Dallas either this year. CeeDee Lamb, really big for him. I don't know if he's the true top 10 receiver some people think. The O-line, if you're signing a 40-year-old Jason Peters, I mean, it can't be the best thing for you.
Yeah.
And they have
Tyron Smith injuries kind of. I mean, that was a huge hit for their offensive line as well.
And he's probably gonna get hurt anyways. And the O line, uh, they've just lost some players. The defense, obviously, of Micah Parsons, but you lost Demarcus. You lost not
They
Demarcus
lost
Lawrence.
Randall Gregory. They lost from
Yeah, they
Denver.
lost Gregory. They have Demarcus Lawrence. Maybe he has a better year. I mean, Trayvon Diggs, very gets picks, gets burnt. I don't see much consistency with the team. Their offense should have its moments with Dak. Dak's good, but weapons aren't the same. No Michael Gallup to start the year. And I think they could be under 500 even as a second place team.
Yeah. I also think just from a defensive standpoint, they depended way too much on getting turnovers last year.
Yes.
They weren't actually stopping teams, getting teams off the field by getting 3 and outs or forcing the punt. It was mostly turnovers, and I do not see that repeating itself this season. Yeah, just like what you said, with all the question marks on the offensive side, defensive side, and I just think the lack of weapons. Unless CeeDee Lamb takes a huge step forward this season, I just don't see them being that good of a well-oiled machine. And then Zeke's another year older. We saw him kind of slow down last year after that PCL tear, so maybe he can return to some form. But I just kind of don't see them making the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it's if the O line was a little better, I could see it because I like Dak but with the struggling O line and not as good weapons, older Zeke, defense will have its moments, have some bad moments. I just don't think they compete with the Eagles here.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. I also have Dallas in second and the Eagles in first. What makes the Eagles so compelling?
Well, I think they're an all-around team. They got James Bradbury this year, AJ Brown this year. I think they have this overall nucleus of a team growing with Jalen Hurts. As Jalen Hurts has gotten better every single year, he's slowly rising and rising. And I think this is the year it really hits off. And I think Hurts is going to have his best year. Brown, Devontae, Goddard, great O line. Running back situation a little iffy. You got good defensive line. They drafted Dean at linebacker, so that'll be interesting. Jordan Davis. I mean, I see a lot of potential here in this Eagles team. They could be. I feel like it's been talked about a lot, but they could be a sleeper Super Bowl team.
Yeah, especially with the fact that the NFC is it's very top heavy. There's probably 4 or 5 teams that I can see making Super Bowl, and Eagles are definitely one of those teams. I also think the addition of AJ Brown, the fact that they only traded 1 first-round pick for him, was also a very underrated acquisition by the Eagles and how they orchestrated that trade. I think AJ Brown will also help Jalen Hurts elevate his game. I think you're going to see the Eagles throw a little bit more this season.
Yes.
I know last season they started the season out by throwing the ball heavy and they weren't getting results. And then they started running the ball, and it kind of opened up the play action game and kind of opened up the running game also for Jalen Hurts. But I also think the passing game, I think you're going to see the Eagles throw probably 10 more passes a game. Miles Sanders has injury issues. I don't know if Kenneth Gainwell is a workhorse running back. I know they also have Boston Scott back there. And I think they also don't want Jalen Hurts to get too beat up. So I do think you'll see them throw the ball a little bit more than running some read option plays.
No, yeah, I'm very excited for them. I think I'm higher on them than you because I really think they could be. I mean, when I look at the NFC, I think who has a truly better roster than the Eagles all around, and I think you can make an argument they're one. Would I put them as one? Maybe, probably not, but they definitely have an argument for up there, and I think that gives them the NFC East by landslide.
So what's like your record ceiling and floor for the Eagles? Are they for sure double-digit win team, or is there a scenario where they could be 9-8 or 8-9 or something?
I think unless something drastic happens, they're hitting the double digits, 10, 11, 12 wins. 13 is probably the max of what they could do, but that's very unlikely. That's probably the very ceiling's 13, but 11-6 or 12-5 is where I see them. Probably 12-5, good record, top 3 NFC seed. I'm excited for the Eagles this year.
Yeah, and I kind of think the same way that you do. I know you're kind of high on them. You like Jalen Hurts. I'm not fully sold on Jalen Hurts, but I do think he has what it takes to take them to where they want to be this year.
No, it's just like we're talking about Daniel Jones, but not to the same extent. Big year for Jalen Hurts.
So now we are going to move on to the NFC South. Who do you have in 4th place in this division?
4th place is the Falcons. I mean, they're not going to be good this year. I sort of like the direction they're actually going. With Mariota starting, Ritter's behind him, very similar. I think they're going to be a weird team for teams. You got players like Pitts, who's very different. You got Cordell Patterson, very different. You got Drake London. It's these three unique weapons that they'll use. I don't think they're going to win a lot of games. They'll probably be pretty bad, but they're going to have a lot closer games, I think people think, because they're so unique. Mariota or Ritter, whoever's playing at what time, they're going to be running around with these three weird weapons. We're all big, physical. So I think they're clearly the last place team, but I like the direction they are overall heading.
I also agree with you that they will finish fourth in this division. I do think they'll probably end up with a top 5 pick in the upcoming draft. It's kind of weird, like you said, they're depending on a rookie receiver and a second-year tight end mostly in their passing game, especially in the red zone, both big targets. Marcus Mariota, he's fine. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback at all, or even a quarterback that will start. I don't think he'll be starting quarterback for them next season at all.
No,
I
for
think
sure
he's more
not.
just a bridge guy. I think that they're very limited on offense. I think they like the running back position. I don't have big faith in, and the receiving options with Kyle Pitts and Drake London. Those are very good pieces for the future. We'll see if Kyle Pitts takes a leap this year. I think he had 0 touchdowns last year. Actually,
I believe he had one.
He had one. Okay, so I do think he'll take a step forward in that regard. But defensively, they're not that good. But I do believe that in maybe a couple of years they can compete for that division, especially with Tom Brady moving out of the division and Carolina always being in flux.
Yeah, I think it's a really the storyline for them is how good is Pitts, how good is London, and then is Ritter their quarterback, or will they be drafting someone?
That's true. Yeah, that is a true point. Desmond Ritter, do you think he has any chance of starting at any point this season?
Oh, I think for sure, maybe around like week 8, they'll be like 2-6, 1-7, 1-6, whatever it is. I think they'll be struggling. Mariota will have some moments, but I think they'll say, okay, this could be a pretty good quarterback year in the draft. Let's put in Ritter, see what we got. But I see Washington doing the same thing with Sam Howell. I think they're in similar situations, both teams. And so I like Ritter. I think he can do it, but it'll just be only time will tell with him and if the Falcons where they pick and if a quarterback is available, but they like Ritter, how good do they have to be worth picking him?
Yeah. I think if they're a top 5 pick and there's a quarterback like Bryce Young or CJ Stroud sitting there, I think you probably have to pull the trigger on one of them. And if they don't do that, I probably see them trading back in the draft and just accumulate more picks to build more depth on their roster. So who do you have in third place in the NFC South?
Now, my third place, this may be my favorite third place team in the NFC. I have the Panthers. I've never been a huge Baker fan, but last year he's really hurt. I think he's a huge upgrade over Darnold. Darnold has proven not be consistent, make dumb plays, while Baker's had true success. And they have a good defense, Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin. They have good players on defensive side. I like DJ Moore. The second and third receiver, they may work out, but Baker's always been someone who could spread the ball around. So just maybe whoever's weak it is. A healthy McCaffrey, Baker. I think this team could really legitimately be a playoff team. Will they make it? I don't know, but I think they're third in this division, but I think they could be fighting for that second place spot. Just depends how good Baker is and the connection the team makes.
Yeah, seems like we're agreeing on every pick so far, except the last place team in the NFC East and third place team in the NFC East. I also have the Panthers in third place. I actually think their defense is very underrated. Last year we kind of saw that defense carry them through the first 3 games, and Darnold was actually very good when they had McCaffrey healthy. I think if McCaffrey can actually stay healthy, they could win this 7 to 8 games. I think if he's not healthy, though, you could see another season when they're going 5-12, 6-11. But I do like Baker Mayfield a little bit. I know he's an accurate passer. I do think he's probably more of a bridge guy at this point in his career. I don't really see him being, a franchise cornerstone or a guy that they're going to possibly be moving on with next season as well. But yeah, the weapons, you have DJ Moore. They just trade for Laviska Shenault. You got Robbie Anderson there as well. And then you have Christian McCaffrey, who, as long as he stays healthy, this offense should be pretty formidable.
See, do you think the Panthers, when it comes to the playoffs, do you think that's a goal they could truly have?
I don't see it. I'm I really don't see it because you have teams like Tampa, the Saints. I think Eagles will make it, of course. Then you have the NFC West. I mean, there could be three teams that can make the division, make the playoffs from that division. We'll get later on with that, but yeah, I just don't see the Panthers. I still think they're maybe a year or two away from actually getting to the playoffs, and we don't even know if Matt Rule can even coach. He hasn't shown anything.
It's a question mark.
He hasn't shown anything that he can coach at this level, and I think there is a good chance that he's let go after the season, especially if they do not make the playoffs.
Rule is he's my big question mark, but I believe in this team.
So who do you have in second place?
So this is my first. I've been saying this for months. Now people may be more common, but I've been saying the Saints are going to win this division and Tampa's going to be in second place. Even before they've had all these injuries with their O-line and their receiver core, something feels off. The team doesn't feel as good. I could see, don't want to disrespect Brady, go down a little more in talent, decline, but I just see Tampa. I saw them as second place behind a good Saints team, but now I see them as potentially not even being as good as I thought as a second place team with these injuries. Of course, Brady's Brady, so if he does whatever, he's Tom Brady. I was wrong. I can admit that. But they're a team who I could see disappointing, and if one or two more things go wrong, I could see them even potentially falling to third in just a drastic change of events, and maybe the Panthers taking them on and getting second place. It'd be one weird NFC South year if it would be Saints 1, Panthers 2.
I think you'd have to see drastic injuries for that to happen. I know Tampa Bay's already dealt with a lot of injuries. I have Saints in second place. And I was on the edge of kind of picking them to go first just because of all the injuries that the Buccaneers have sustained this season. But when you look at it, I'm not going to pick Jameis over Tom Brady to win this division. I do like the Saints roster. I do think it's better all around. But I do think that Tom Brady is the player that you're not going to bet against. And I'm definitely not going to take Jameis over Tom Brady. I am worried, though, about the Tampa Bay offensive line. The whole interior is their whole interior is restructured. And the one thing that Brady hates the most is pressure out the middle. And that's something that teams will like to exploit this upcoming season.
See, I think the thing with the Saints, they're 5-2 Jameis last year, very good. And then sometimes people talk about Sean Payton leaving. The offense wasn't that good. The defense is going to stay top tier with Dennis Allen. It will not get worse. The offense, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas back, Jarvis Landry, those are three receivers who can all be very consistent for you. I think that is what's going to propel them. Alvin Kamara, you got four good weapons on that offense. Jameis, who I think has been improving throughout his career. I think he's become a smarter quarterback. I think he's become this weird, unique leader, but people like Jameis. And I think it's going to come together for the Saints. I think they're going to shock some people. I think that they're going to be a team that people do not expect, but they come up, surprise some teams, take down Tampa. They already played very well against Tampa. This could just be even better. And I think this is with the Eagles. I think there's only 4 division winners, but I think these two teams are both sleepers.
Do you think people are undervaluing the loss of Sean Payton to an extent? I mean, they've had a great offense since he's been the coach there, and I think people are kind of overlooking that and just brushing that to the side.
See, my thing is, as I was saying earlier, their offense was bad last year. They didn't have anything. Their offense will be better. Obviously, if Sean Payton was still there, I'd be even higher on them. But they were throwing out Taysom Hill and Ian Book Ian Book. They were a disaster last year on offense, and there's nothing Sean Payton could do. And no matter who's coaching this year, they're going to be better on offense with these weapons, and I think it's really going to come together. If they had Sean Payton, they may be my NFC pick.
So going back to Tampa Bay, their first 4 games, they open at Dallas, and then they play at New Orleans versus Green Bay versus Chiefs. What do you kind of see them going there, and what do you expect that they have to go to keep the season online?
I think you need to hit 2-2. They should beat Dallas. They're better in Dallas. Tom Brady's not losing Dallas. I know you almost did last year. If they lose Dallas, I'd be pretty surprised. But you got a situation. I think they lose against the Saints because obviously I have Saints higher. Packers, Tampa, very close. I'm going to say Packers have a pretty foundational defense, and if their weapons are at least somewhat hitting their stride, I'd take Packers. And Chiefs, Tampa, another close one. And I actually think Chiefs would take it, and I'd have Tampa at 1-3. After that.
Yeah, to be honest, I think that there's a possibility that this Tampa Bay does start out 1-3. But when you look at the next three games, they play Atlanta, Pittsburgh, and Carolina. I think they kind of get back on track there before playing the Ravens and the Rams. So I think, it could be a bumpy start, but I do think once they find their footing and maybe they get the ball out quicker to avoid pressure on Brady, I think they're going to be able to find their way on top of this division.
It's very possible. I'm calling the down year. They'll be a borderline playoff team, in my opinion. And once it's playoffs, Brady, anything's out in the open.
So with that being said, we are going to move on to the NFC North. Luke, what is a team that you think is going to finish last in this division?
I have the Bears. I think most people who are smart have the Bears. Sometimes you'll be seeing people talk high about them. Even if you love Justin Fields, I like Justin Fields. I don't love him. And he has Darnell Mooney, who I do really like. But then he has this O-line, the defense. They've been trading people. You got Roquan asking for a trade, but now he's staying. I just think it's really a mess besides a few players. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're one of the top picks. Whenever they do win games, it may have to be a Montgomery Herbert at running back ball and then like a Mooney 150-yard game. Because the talent is very low. Fields is not being supported. If they get a top 2 pick, you may just have to take Stroud or Young, and it wouldn't even be Fields' fault, maybe. It's just, I think they're last, and I don't think it's too much of a discussion.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I think the Bears just have too many things going against them this season. And I do think they went to this year knowing that it was going to be a down year. And I think they know that Fields is their quarterback. So I think they're going to be a bottom, 3 or 5 team in this league. I do think they're going to be given one of those top picks. I think they're sticking with Fields. They kind of entered the year knowing that they were not going to be in a place to win or even be able to compete. So from that standpoint, I just think that they know that Fields is their guy. I just think it's going to be a lot of bumps in the road this year. And I think, you're going to see them struggle a lot. They open against the 49ers week 1. I'm expecting a blowout in that game. The offensive line, I just don't think can hold up against the 49ers pass rush. And in general, I think they're going to finish probably, 4-13, 3-14, somewhere in that.
Yeah, not a good year for them.
No. So third place, I don't know about you, but I have the Lions finishing third.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had a very impressive offseason. They've drafted Jameson Williams, who I know he won't be starting the year. He'll probably miss the first 6 to 8 weeks coming off a torn ACL. But I think they have a good foundation there. They have Aiden Hutchinson on the defensive line. They added their offensive line's very good. I think. They have a good running game, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams. I think if Jared Goff can just be consistent enough, they could win, 7 to 8 games, I believe.
Yeah, I feel very similar. I feel like the bottom 2, Bears and Lions, is the overall consensus on this division. But I do like the Lions. I have been high on Dan Campbell since he got hired. I think he's not just this oorah guy. I think he truly knows what he's doing there. I think they have good pieces all around. I think they're maybe missing a couple stars, maybe a little more stars on the defense, just maybe a big impact player or two. Maybe if Aiden Hutchinson is just a stud, it would help. But I see them around the 7 to 8 wins. I think next year could be a playoff year. If everything goes right, they could be fighting for the wild card near the end. They're not a bad team, and I think this will be a good year to watch the Lions be an exciting team.
Yeah, I think their roster is actually well built. I just think I'm not confident in their quarterback position in Goff. I think they're a quarterback away from actually being a playoff team. So I kind of have them on the board of this year at like 7-10, missing the playoffs. But I think next year, if they could find a way to, maybe draft one of these rookies, let Goff start and let one of these rookies sit and learn for, half the year to 12 games and then put them in, I think they could be a playoff team by that point. But I just think at this point, I just think Jared Goff's too limited to take them to the playoffs.
Mm. A big year for Goff to see if he can get another contract. I think if he plays well enough, wins some 8 games, he just may be their quarterback.
Yeah, maybe. I'd probably see it for maybe one more year after this season, if anything, if he's good enough. So who do you have in second place in this division?
Now, this is definitely my favorite second place team in the NFC. I have the Vikings, and I was very close on Vikings Packers. New coach Kellen O'Connell, they're going to pass it more. Justin Jefferson's probably going to have an insane year. I think this Vikings offense will be legit. The defense is very reliant on a lot of rookies in the back end, and Pat Pete, who's older, Harrison Smith, who's older. And they may have a nice pass rush duo of Hunter and Za'Darius Smith, who they signed from the Packers. But it's just, I like them at 2. They're going to be probably the top wild card team, in my opinion, barely missing out against the Packers. But the Packers' overall roster, people may talk about their lack of receivers. But if you take away receivers, I think they clearly have the best roster in the NFC and probably even all of football. And in the end, Aaron Rodgers, even with lack of receivers, if he has a better roster all around, 17 games, I'm taking Rodgers.
So this is actually where we disagree. I have the Packers finishing second. It's nothing against Rodgers, I'm not in this defense. I'm a huge fan of this defense. I think the fact, though, that they lost Davante Adams, they're relying on 2 rookie receivers, Lazard, who I think is not a number 1, and Sammy Watkins, who, he's been underwhelming for his entire career has been underwhelming. And he can't really stay healthy at all. So I think the fact that they have to basically rely on their running game, and I don't know who they're going to rely on when it's crunch time and they need a first down, when they have to pass the ball on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7. I just don't have faith in that. And I think you saw that in the playoffs last year. Rodgers only trusted Aaron Jones and Davante Adams. There was that crossing route that Lazard had. Lazard was wide open in the middle of the field, and Rodgers still forced it to Adams in double coverage about 40 yards down the field. I just think they are too limited on offense. I love their running game. I love their offensive line, and I think Rodgers is great. But I think when you have to depend on rookies, and Rodgers has not had success with rookies in his career, and I think those rookies have to step up and make an impact that not other rookies in the past have had to do. We even saw Davante Adams when he was a rookie. I think he had like 400 receiving yards, 500 receiving yards.
He had a drop issue.
Yes, he did have a drop issue. Yeah, I think he didn't hit until his maybe 3rd year in the league. So, and I know Romeo Doubs has been a breakout star in training camp in the preseason. Christian Watson's had injury issues this offseason as well. So, I don't know. I see them as like 11-6 team. And that kind of shows us how high I am on the Vikings.
Yeah, the Vikings, it's very close for me. I just think that I'll take the Packers struggles on offense over the Vikings struggles on defense. I think there's a chance we see the best Rodgers. He may be forced to do things he's not had to do before, but these may be the best 2 athletes he's had together in a while in Dobbs and Watson. He's been talking up Watson lately. He's talked up Dobbs earlier. He likes Lazard. They may not have a 1, but if Rodgers can change himself a little bit and put a little more trust in these dudes, I could actually see this being the best version of Rodgers with 2 studs with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon's. Just studs. They're going to be dominant. If he can put trust in those 3, if those 3 are the main 3 near the end of the year, I think this could be the best Packers team we've seen. It's all about that Rodgers connections to his receivers. And if he hits that, I think if he hits that early, best team. It all depends on that.
I just don't think he's going to trust his guys, and we've kind of seen that in the past, just in the playoffs. Like I said, I think he has a trust issue, and he's not going to – I just don't think he's going to trust those rookies in a big situation, and I don't think Lazard is good enough to be the number 1 guy.
He's got to throw it to someone.
Yeah. And then Vikings, I just love the Kevin O'Connell hire. I think he's going to elevate Kirk Cousins, and I know that he's talked about using Justin Jefferson the way that Rams used Cooper Kupp last season. So I do think Jefferson's going to break out this year. Thielen, I don't think he's going to be a volume guy, but I do think he's going to be a great weapon in the red zone. And they have Dalvin Cook, who kind of had a down year last year. I kind of see him having a positive regression in touchdowns
Mhm.
this year. I think he only had 5 touchdowns or 6 touchdowns last year, so I am seeing a positive regression in that as well. And their defense, I know there's some doubts about their defense. I do think later on in the year, though, I think their defense could be maybe a top 15 defense, just do enough to win games.
Mhm. I like the Vikings. I think this division could be the best division in the NFC. The more I think about it, the more I lean this division because I like their top 2 teams and I like their third team. They just struggle with the Bears, but I think it'll be a fun division. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be very good near the end. It's just there's question marks and they'll be answered probably. We'll have to wait.
Well, we are going to move on to the last division, and it's a division that many people think is the best division in this conference and the NFC West. What are kind of your expectations for this division, and who do you expect to finish last?
I'm a little lower on this division if I had to be honest. I know they have defending Super Bowl champs as with the Rams, but I just see issues with all 3 of these teams. And it's a division I see that just is going to be a little more disappointing than people think. Maybe they may have 3 playoff teams and still I just feel like it's a lot of issues. The top team in there, they won this. I know the Rams. I have them as my one for this division. Then they won the Super Bowl, but I just think they're not as good as advertised, even with their star-stud talent. But with that, after a little rambling, I have Seattle at 4. I think everyone has Seattle at 4. Lost Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, or Drew Lock. Lost players. It's just Seattle's 4. They have the worst roster, worst quarterback. And that's about it with Seattle. They have 2 great weapons. They have possible good running game. And Pete Carroll, I think it'll probably be his last year, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think there's much discussion when it comes to Seattle. I think it's just a
Mhm.
foregone conclusion. They're going to be the last place team in this division. You lose Russell Wilson, and even with Russell Wilson, they would make the playoffs, but they weren't really a team that deserved to be in the playoffs these
Mhm.
past few years if it weren't for Russell Wilson. So, as you said, I don't think there's much discussion. Who do you expect to finish third in this division?
I had the Cardinals, about a year or 2 years ago. I was a big Kyler guy after his rookie season. I thought he could really play well, and I still love his talent. But, the contract stuff is weird with the hours he has to study. And I don't know if I truly trust him as a quarterback and leading a team. JJ Watt, their offense, but including JJ Watt on defense, just injuries or suspensions with Hopkins suspended. JJ Watt could be hurt anytime. Week 1, they're going against the Chiefs, and they already got injuries. Zach Ertz. I do like Trey McBride, but they'll probably start Zach Ertz. O-line has always been an issue for them. They do got players like Buda Baker on defense, but their team I think could disappoint again. Kyler, he sort of secured himself with a contract, but if he doesn't get to 9 or 10 wins, the talk will really be raining down on him. And if the Cardinals maybe gave one of the worst contracts in the NFL.
Yeah, I also agree with you that they're going to finish third. And the main problem I have with this team is that ever since Cliff Kingsbury got in there, they've started fast and they finished slow.
Hmm.
This year, I'm kind of expecting to come out of the gates pretty slow, especially with Hopkins being suspended 6 games. So, I mean, what's going to happen after the second half of the season? I'm not going to see them. I don't think it's going to be the reverse of them. They start
Hmm.
slow and then they end up going fast. I think they're going to start out slow and then they're kind of just going to sludge through the season. I can see them winning like 6 games this year. Just the fact
Same
that they
here.
don't have Hopkins. There's a lot of injuries, a lot of question marks on this roster, and then you have the whole Kyler Murray situation. I mean, can he stay healthy? If he goes down at some point in the season, even after they have Hopkins, I mean, that's another question mark that I have. So I do think they're going to start the gates really slow this year. Maybe go 1-3, start out, and then I don't see them as a playoff team as weak as the NFC is as a whole.
Me neither. To them to make the playoffs, I think it'd have to be a lot of things hitting right. And I just don't see it. I just don't trust anyone on the Cardinals, and they're not a very trustworthy team. I think that sort of just describes them. High talent, low trust, probably going to miss the playoffs.
Yep. I know these next 2 teams. I can pretty much guarantee that we have a difference of opinion here,
Mhm.
first and second.
You know, Probably so. I have the Niners at second, and I like the Niners roster. Trey Lance, I like his ability, but you know, something's just it's Trey Lance. In 2 years, could he just be a monster? Yes. But they have this terrible line, and Trey Lance is more talented than Jimmy G was, who's now still on the roster. But I still feel like if you put Jimmy G as starter over Lance, they probably win more games because he is the smarter quarterback with the offensive line struggles. He knows what to do more. Trey Lance is going to have some high moments and going to have some low moments. This defense has looked really good as of late. It's been really talked about, but I still don't know how much I truly love this defense. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, studs. Everyone else is pretty solid, but I don't know if it's going to be that top five people are talking about. They should make the playoffs for me as the second team in the NFC West, but I think there's a chance this NFC West has one playoff team in the Rams. The Rams, I'm not even a big fan of the Rams. You know, they got great talent. They got Bobby, they got Allen this offseason. They did lose Odell. We're hearing these Stafford arm issues. The whole line's not going to be as good. The NFC West is just sort of it. I know it's good, but it's not what I think people think it is this year.
Yeah, I happen to disagree with you on this. I think the Rams finished second in this division, and it's kind of what you just said right before you closed off with that. Their offensive line issues. They lost Whitworth. Cam Akers just having he's coming off an Achilles injury. He looked pretty bad when he came back from that Achilles injury, and I know that he came back way ahead of time. But I don't think he's going to be the same running back. Darrell Henderson's injury prone. He's always dealing with hamstring issues or calf issues. And I think, teams are going to be after them this year. When you're defending champions, you're going to get everybody's best effort. And I'm not too sure that this roster is even built that well. I think it's very top heavy. They grab stars and then they try to hit late round picks, which they have been doing successfully. So I don't think that's sustainable though. And, I think the 49ers, they've always had the Rams number, especially with Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. I think Kyle Shanahan has been very good against Sean McVay. And I think if Kyle Shanahan had a quarterback that could, make plays and it didn't have to be so scripted, I think they could easily be a better team than Rams. And I do think Lance, he's very raw. He may not be quite as ready to come out of the gates, but I think when the season keeps going, he's going to keep getting better and better. And all they need him to do is make a play here or there when they need something, or just take care of the football. And I know Jimmy Garoppolo, people said he managed the game well. I mean, there's still times where I saw him make just very bad throws, and they were very limited with the Garoppolo. He could only throw down the numbers. He couldn't throw outside the numbers at all. And I think you're going to see the offense kind of expand with Trey Lance.
No, there's a real chance that if Lance hits, this Niners team could be great. But they have this O-line issue, which with a young quarterback, I don't know if I trust, especially someone who has mechanical issues and footwork isn't great. I maybe trust someone more who's more steady. Yeah, but if they can hit things right, it could really work. And of course, the Rams could. I mean, I feel like I'm being sort of disrespectful to the reigning Super Bowl champs because they do have Stafford, who I always thought was a little underrated. They have Kupp, who's a stud. Allen Robinson should be good. They have top end talent who could push them through. But it'll be interesting to see if this division stays consistent. I feel like it's a division of talent, but inconsistency.
Yeah, and I think 49ers, they have a great chance starting out of the gates pretty hot. They face Chicago and then Seattle in the first 2 weeks before facing Denver in week 3. So I think it's a great opportunity for them. And I think early on, you're not going to see Lance having to make big plays. They're going to depend on this run game. And I think they're going to have plays where he's running outside the pocket or, read options, just get a few yards here and then depend on that running game. So now I believe
you froze there for me, but I'll continue talking. The run game, yes, it could be very good, but there are its issues, and hopefully you unfreeze here. Oh, you're frozen for me there.
Okay.
Could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just didn't know if you heard my last couple of points, but that's fine.
You're talking about the run game.
Yeah. So we were just about to move on to the AFC conference.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to touch about the NFC, or are you ready to move on to the AFC?
The NFC, I don't know. I think if I had to, who would you say is your pick right now just to make it out of the Super Bowl? Make it to the Super Bowl.
Make Super Bowl. Man, to be honest, I think the 49ers are a dark horse team of mine. I don't know if they end up making it. I'd probably say it's between the 49ers and probably the Rams and Eagles. Like I said, I don't have great faith in Tampa this year. And then Green Bay, I just think, at some point, that lack of a weapon is going to bite them.
I've picked them the last 2 years. It's my final time doing it. Packers are going to the Super Bowl. Final time picking them.
There's just too many. There's too many years of them. Oh, we're right there.
This is the year.
Once you miss your time, you miss your time, and I think they've kind of missed that window of winning a championship.
I don't know. This may be their best overall roster. Picking Packers.
All right, so now we are going to move on to the AFC side of things, and we're going to start out with the AFC South. This is kind of a pretty bad division. I think it may be the worst division in football, to be quite honest with you. I don't really have any faith in any of these teams. But who is your last place team in this division?
You're talking about them being pretty bad as a division. I sort of like the back end of this division. I don't know. I have Houston at 4th, but I don't like them being put at 4th. I like the way Houston's going. I like the way Jacksonville's going. I don't like the way the Titans are going. And I nearly wanted to take Titans from 2 and put them at 4, but they do have Henry, Tannehill, Vrabel. So I'm not going to do that. Put Houston at 4. I like Davis Mills. I think they could have something there, but Lovie Smith at coach it's Lovie Smith at coach. But I think they could build something. You got Brandon Cooks. I've been hearing some stuff about Nico Collins on Twitter and such, is saying he's had a good camp from Texans beat reporters I've been seeing tweeting about it. And they're building their roster still, and they got Kayvon Green on the offensive line from the draft. I think they're going to be a weird team. I think they're going to be a team that may be a better version of the Falcons, where it's like they have a lot of close games, but they lose them. But I think the back end of the AFC South will probably be better than other back ends. I Houston at 4, but I like the way they're looking for the future.
I do like the way that Houston and Jacksonville's trending just for future-wise, but this season I still think Houston's going to struggle. I like Davis Mills a lot. Is he a franchise quarterback? I'm not quite too sure about that. And, I like their weapons, or I like Brandon Cooks. But outside of Brandon Cooks, I don't know if there's anybody I could really, trust. And then I think Dameon Pierce, there's a chance he's a very good running back, and they might have gone a steal. I believe they drafted him 4th round, which, I think it's kind of become a trend in the league. Just running backs are going later and later because it's not a value position as it once was. But, yeah, I think, they drafted Eric Stingley. He'll be a cornerstone corner for them in the future. But I think there's just not that many star players on this roster. And in the NFL, you need star players. And, of course, you need depth and all that. But you need some star players. Your quarterback needs to be a top quarterback. And I just don't think Davis Mills has that potential. I think he's very solid. I just don't think he has that potential of being, a top 12 to 15 quarterback in this league.
I think he does. I think he definitely showed some potential last year, showed some big plays. He's not top 12, 15 talented, but he's someone who I can believe just has that it factor. And he could be pretty good, and I think Houston could surprise some teams this year.
So who is your 3rd place team in the AFC South?
I have the Jags, and I had them at 4th, if you asked me a month ago, like pretty clearly. But the more I've thought about it, I think this may be a Trevor Lawrence breakout. I like Doug Peterson. Did I love their offseason? I did not. With their receiver, they pay a lot of money. And overall, I don't like the Jags offseasons. But Trevor Lawrence was like the most talked about prospect since Andrew Luck for a reason. And I think it's going to be Trevor having a great year. Maybe his great year still putting them at only 6 or 7 wins. But I think this is all about Trevor showing himself. And then maybe next season could be the Trevor boom, where it's like he's a legit dude, and now Trevor can do stuff by himself, and he could lead a team to the playoffs and dominate, maybe even have a great game in the playoffs just because he's that good. So I'm thinking a huge Trevor year puts him at 3rd and makes him another interesting team.
Yeah, I think kind of last year there's kind of set up to fail. They had Urban Meyer as head coach, and I mean
Yes.
he had no idea what he was doing. I
Hmm.
think Doug Peterson is actually a very sneaky good hire this offseason. And maybe actually one of my favorite hires of this offseason from a head coaching standpoint. They overpaid for Christian Kirk, but that's still a weapon on the outside that that Jacksonville lacked last season. You have Travis Etienne who's coming back. I mean, that's basically an addition just because he missed the entire season last year. Then you have James Robinson, who's also coming back from Achilles tear. And then I love their edge rushers with Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker. I think those two, I think they're going to do very well week 1 against Washington.
Hmm.
But I think Jacksonville, I think they're one of those teams. I mean, I would not be surprised if they had 7, 8 wins. I really think they're gonna, I think they're gonna take that leap this year. And I think Trevor Lawrence, he's the type of guy that you want as your franchise quarterback. He's very mature. He's very smart. And, I think he has all the tools to be a great quarterback in this league. We just have to see him take that step and elevate others.
I forgot all about. I didn't mention Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker looks like a stud, and he can even improve their pass rush. I like the direction Jacksonville's going if they can make just a little more better offseason moves.
Yep. And now we have Colts and Titans. How do you see this division rounding out?
Now, as I said earlier, I nearly had Titans at 4, which, yes, I like the Colts. I think Matt Ryan could be very good. Big Pittman year. They got the O-line. Colts are just a steady team. And really, as I talked about with Washington, Carson Wentz was just bad. He was just bad.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Ryan's no star, but he's a solid dude who I trust. I trust Matt Ryan with this team. It should be an easy division win. The only way, and this is why I have the Titans at 2nd, Derrick Henry could just dominate. He could just kill people, truck them, just carry the whole offense on his back. They lost A.J. Brown, who I love. Tannehill is still a good, solid quarterback around that Matt Ryan tier, but they lost the Harold Landry for the season. That's big. Their best pass rusher. And I'm not too high on Titans. It is literally Derrick Henry or bust for me on them. And I like the Colts. I think Darius, now going by his real name, Shaquille Leonard, should be back week 1. I'm not sure on that, but I thought I saw something that's possible. And I just like the team. I like the Colts. I don't think they're a juggernaut, but they're just a team who they're not going to lose to bad teams, and they may be a good team or two. So I like the Colts winning the division.
Yeah, I also agree with you on the Colts winning the division. I just think the Titans, I mean, you kind of just saw how the season ended last year. I mean, Tannehill, I think he's kind of hit his ceiling as a quarterback. I think the year they went to AFC Championship, a lot of things went right for them. Last year, they were the 1 seed. But I don't know, they're too Derrick Henry dependent, and A.J. Brown's gone. You're depending on Treylon Burks and a bunch of other guys that, aren't that great at receivers. And I don't know, I think Tannehill can't really elevate this team much higher. And, I think they're going to run Derrick Henry to the ground. And, he has a lot of tread on those tires. I believe he has 1,215 to 1,500 carries in the last 3 or 4 years. That's that's a huge workload he's getting every year. He's averaging at least over 300 carries per year. He's 28 now. It's just I don't know how long they could depend on Derrick Henry. And I'm not a big fan of their offensive line. I also think that's a declining feature of their team. Their defense, I'm not huge on. I do not have that big of faith in the Titans. And then as for the Colts, people say that Matt Ryan's like this. He's much better than Carson Wentz. I think he's smarter than Carson Wentz, and he'll take care of the football. I mean, when you look at Carson Wentz last year, he had 27 touchdowns and only 7 picks.
I don't think
I know. What'd you say? Sorry.
I don't think that tells a story.
No, because I know that there's a lot of interception. There's a lot of potential other interceptions that he threw that were dropped, or the defenders just didn't take advantage of those throws. Matt Ryan, I just don't think he's that big of an improvement over Carson Wentz. I do think they will be better this season, but I also don't know if Jonathan Taylor is going to repeat what he did last year. I think they're going to try to minimize his workload a little bit this year. They'll still use him a lot, but I think they're going to try to use Naheem Hines more and kind of let John Taylor, warm up and stay fresh throughout the season.
I think that's fine. I don't think they're going to be some 13-win team, but I think they're gonna beat everyone who they should beat. They're gonna be consistent, gonna be like a rock, and they're just gonna do what they should do. And what they should do is win this division.
Yeah, I think they may win this division going 9-8, 10-7. This division I feel like is just like a winner by default. I don't see this division being that great, and I think the Colts have a much better roster than everybody else in this division, just all around. There's not a lot of stars, but there's a lot of very solid pieces throughout this roster. So now we are going to move on to the AFC East. This division is kind of interesting this year. I think we're going to see a lot of things that we haven't seen in the past, and I think it's going to be dominated by one team, and I think the Bills are probably going to win this division pretty easily. But we'll start out with the last place teams.
I mean, yes, the Bills are going to win. We already know that. Bills are going to win this division. Now, the bottom three, I like all four in these teams, and all for different reasons. I think they're each a unique team in their own right. I do have Jets at 4, and I've been high on Zach Wilson for the draft when he got drafted. I know he struggled a lot, but he had some good moments. They're at 4, I think, just because I think they probably, in my opinion, they have the 4th coach, and they're the youngest team. But I think they could be teetering around 7 wins as a 4th place team. It's all about for them the trajectory moving up. It's not about playoffs or place. It's about looking better. I think they've got a lot of nice young draft picks, but obviously those picks can struggle here or there. They lost Becton, which is pretty big, but they replaced him with Dwayne Brown. And it's just, I like the Jets. It's not a team I love, but I think they're on a good trajectory. Big year for my guy, Zach Wilson. I think he's going to show up pretty well, but he'll have some issues. He'll have some issues probably, but 7 wins, 4th place. I think they could be battling for 3rd, and it'll be a very telling year for the Jets.
I agree with you that they're going to finish last. I have no faith in Zach Wilson. I think especially with all the weapons that they're acquiring, I think if he fails this year, if they're 4-13 and he has, double-digit interceptions and only like 20 touchdowns, they may move off of him. You brought up earlier how the Bears, they may move off Justin Fields if they're high enough. I think the Jets are in the same conversation. I think if he struggles and they're a top 3 pick and you have CJ Stroud or Bryce Young sitting there, you have to think about it. They've drafted Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson. They just drafted Breece Hall as a running back. They built a solid offensive line, even though it's dealt with injuries. And their defense, they drafted corners. I think if he struggles this year and you see his team finish 3-14, 4-13, there is a legitimate conversation for them moving off of Zach Wilson.
They're not going to finish that low. They have too much talent to finish that low. Zach Wilson did not have a lot of what you talk about. He didn't have last year. You're acting like he did. He did not have this stuff last year. He had Elijah Moore, who I love, but he didn't even have him for that many games. Moore missed a lot of games. Moore did have his best games without Zach Wilson, but it's just Wilson was also hurt. It was just a very bad year for the Jets. They're not going to be a bottom 3-5 team. They should be outside the top 10 in the draft. And even if Wilson doesn't have a great year, he should be good enough where he gets one more, unless he's just putrid. He's getting another shot because they're not going to be that bad. They have a good team. I like 7 wins, and I think they can compete. And I have them right behind the Patriots. And the Patriots have been a team I've usually been high on. I'm just skipping to my 3rd team here. I've usually been high on them. I like Mac Jones. Bill Belichick's the GOAT. But this whole offensive coordinator situation, they've lost some players. The receivers aren't great. So the Jets could pass them up. But I have them at 3rd and not 4th, sort of for the fact that it's Bill Belichick. He's not getting 4th place. And I think they have some consistent players. They're going to be a weird team. I think Big Mac Jones honestly had a better situation last year than this year, They lost Josh McDaniels. That's huge to the Raiders. But the Patriots will probably disappoint, and then at some points they'll look really good, and they'll be pretty weird. And I'm lower on them than I was, but I'll have Patriots at the third place.
Before I move on to my third place team, I was going to make one more point about the Jets. When you look at that schedule, they opened Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Miami, Green Bay, Denver, New England, Buffalo before the Week 10 bye. I don't know how many wins they get in there. They probably beat Cleveland Week 2.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to lose Week 1 to Baltimore. I think they probably win Week 2. Bengals probably beat them. At Pittsburgh, that's a tough place to play. Then you have Miami, Green Bay, Denver in 3 consecutive weeks before facing New England and Buffalo. I can see them going, 1-8, 2-7 before the Week 10 bye. And I just don't see it with them this season. I just don't think that they're going to be able to overcome that potentially slow start. Go ahead.
Just quickly, I think you're overrating the schedule. Browns won't be good. We don't know about Pittsburgh.
Well, I said that they would beat the Browns.
Yeah, and then Miami and New England, we still aren't fully sure on them yet. That's 14, and they can always surprise someone. It's the NFL; they can always surprise someone. I don't think that schedule is it's a tough schedule, but it's not as daunting as you make it seem.
Okay. So with that being said, I will move on to my third place team, which is also the New England Patriots. I'm not a huge believer in them this year. I think they're very limited, especially offensively. I think they're very limited. They're dependent on that defense to get turnovers and special teams to win field position. And to be honest with you, I think Davis Mills is better than Mac Jones. And then when you take into account, like you said, the whole offensive coordinator position with Matt Patricia, it's just, I think it's a disaster waiting to happen. I can see them finishing 6-11 this year. And I don't see any path of them getting second or first place in this division.
I think the path to second place is they have Bill Belichick, and he's a genius, and they have a good defense, and they ground and pound. If the O-line figures out its offseason issues, I don't think second place is out of discussion, but I also think they could be last place. I think we don't know what's going to happen, but we do know they have Bill Belichick. And I like Mac Jones as a consistent quarterback. If he takes a step, that will be huge for them. They said he looks stronger. He makes some nice deep ball throws. It's about if that arm talent can fully reach his potential, and they're an interesting team to me. I don't know how to fully view them. So third place seems right.
So with the process of elimination, it's pretty clear that we both have Miami as our second place team in the AFC East. What do you kind of think is their ceiling? And are you worried about them at all? Do you think Tua kind of holds them back at all?
I think Tua is the decider of their ceiling. If Tua is bad, it could just all fall apart. If Tua is great, you could see them in week 15. People are like, oh, do they have a chance against the Bills? No, the Bills are going to win the division there. The Bills are amazing. But Tua is really the decider because there's no two weapons together like Weddle and Hill. Those two, their speed, their ability to just shift side to side when looking straight at defender. There's no duo like that in the NFL. With that, it's like the Giants may have the very poor man's version in Tony and Wendell. I love Tony and Wendell looks good, but Hill and Waddle, it's just like that could be something that's so unique. And they got Mike McDaniel if he implements a San Fran running scheme. It really depends. This O-line can hold up, but it's all about Tua. I like the defense. I don't love it. It's really about if Tua is the decider on this team. And I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah, I think if he struggles, this team's not going to, go far. I think I'd probably say the ceiling is probably at 10-7 or 11-6. I think Tua I think he could be a solid quarterback. I just don't know if he's, one of these top end quarterbacks. And I think Tua, you kind of need pieces around him to elevate him. But yeah, like you said, they have Waddle and Hill. I mean, those are probably it's probably the fastest duo receiving core in the league, just top two wise. And I think Tua, you could take advantage of that. You could throw slants, have them run 60, 70 yards. You don't need to throw the ball necessarily down the field. Then, the running game, I think the running game is also very underrated. You have Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert Raheem Mostert came from the 49ers system, and Mike McDaniels is, coming from 49ers as the OC, and he's going to be the head coach of the Dolphins. And I think their running game is something that can also help this team, keep defenses, steady at the line of scrimmage. And defenses are going to have to, they have to account for Hill and Waddle and this run game that I think is going to keep teams off balance.
Yeah, I'm excited about them. They're very interesting. I do think that the run game will be important. See, they don't have a stud, but I like Edmonds. I'm not sure on the O line. They're probably, if this O line could be something too, it could be something they could really surprise some people. But I think they're probably going to be around the 500 mark. It's 8 to 10 wins, probably 8 to 10 wins.
Okay, I know we do have a side wager going on if the Dolphins do make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really sound like you sound confident that they make the playoffs because we made that bet months ago before they got Tyreek Hill.
Yes,
So,
but the
are you
AFC
still
got a
not
lot better.
Okay.
So
Okay. I mean,
it's a little tough.
And then I think it goes without saying that we both have the Bills winning this division. I think pretty easily they win this division.
Yeah, this is looking like if Josh Allen, he could just have an MVP year. He's going to be definitely up there by the end of the year. Their weapons are great, good online. Defense is just good all around. Their picks look great in Khair Lam and their other corner, I'm forgetting his name, who they drafted later. But the Bills are I think they're the best team in football. Sad to say it as a Chiefs fan. No, we did beat them. But, I mean, they're the best team in football, and I don't think it's too much discussion. It's just about there's Josh Allen, even if he doesn't have consistency like he showed at the end of the year, but if he is consistent like he was at the end of the year, then they're just clearly the best team. So it's just how good could the Bills be, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think, Gabriel Davis is going to take that next step forward. Isaiah McKenzie's got a lot of buzz out of training camp. I think this offense is going to be even better than it was. I would like to see this team run the ball a little bit more. That is one concern of mine. I think sometimes they become too focused on Josh Allen being, the focal point of the passing game and rushing attack. I want them to kind of lean on that running game more, take some pressure off of Josh Allen. And there will be pressure taken off Josh Allen just based on the fact that their defense is, so good. They were a top defense last year, and I kind of expect them to repeat that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bills. I think just Bills are a top team in the NFL that most people are discussing as the best team.
So now we are going to move to the AFC North, a very compelling division. We have the defending AFC champions, Cincinnati Bengals. Do you kind of see this division playing out how it did last year, or what do you expect?
Well, I do not, because Lamar got hurt and the Ravens were banged up. Steelers snuck their way in. Bengals. I predicted Bengals last year would win the division, and that wasn't popular, but they did. But I think it'll be very weird. Baker's traded now Deshaun, but Deshaun suspended 11 games. So the Browns, in my thought, they're just an afterthought. This is a throwaway season for the Browns, in my opinion. They have a good roster, but they're gonna have Brissett and just a whole bunch of off-season distraction. So I have them at 4, and I'm just gonna skip to my third team's Pittsburgh. I like Pittsburgh. Quarterback situation. I think Pickett may have not been a bad pick. He looks pretty good, but may just be a first year. You got Trubisky in there. If Pickens is great, O-line is still probably the downfall of this team. I don't trust it. I don't think they'll be able to run the ball well. May not have some time in the pocket. Obviously, Tomlin with this defense. It's going to be a good defense. I mean, that's pretty clear. It's just, can the offense be better this year? And I don't know what to think about them. They haven't finished below 500 in like 15 years or something like that. So I think they probably 9-8, 8-9, be very playoff discussion week 15, 16, but it may falter off. And they're a weird team, but they're a team I don't want to mess with.
Yeah, Cleveland's finishing last. I don't think there's much doubt about that. I also have the Steelers third. I think they have, when Deshaun Watson comes back, which will be an afterthought after the season anyways, they will have the worst quarterback in this division. And I think, like last season, they will be heavily dependent on his defense. And I do think Trubisky and Kenny Pickett are both upgrades over Big Ben. But I just think, the offensive line isn't great. Najee had the sprained Liz Frank injury. So that's something that maybe comes back in the season or lingers into the season. We don't know. But I just don't think they have the quarterback play to hold up in this division. I see them finishing like 7-10 this year. I don't think they're going to be able to compete with the two top teams in this division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're definitely on a sort of tier on their own in the division, where it's like you respect them, but you don't know how truly good they're going to be. And I'm not sure. I'm just not sure on the Steelers.
So moving on, who finishes second?
I have the Bengals. The Bengals have been a team I'm low on this offseason, and it sort of seems stupid that I am because they fixed their line. But I think their defense really outperformed itself last year. I'm not a fan of too many players on it. I like Logan Wilson. I mean, he's clearly not their best defender. I like Logan Wilson. But the secondary really outperformed itself. And it's one of those, I don't know how logical of a thought process this is, but a Super Bowl layoff or hangover after losing, I think they're going to be they're going to have to fight for the last playoff spot. And that leads me to Baltimore. They're healthy. And I'm calling Lamar Jackson with this contract situation. He's having an MVP type year. I think this is a big Lamar year. I think he's going to have his best year running, throwing. They may get Dobbins back. I know he has some health issues, but they may get him back. Their defense is going to be much healthier. I'm going all in on the Ravens this year. Even as a Chiefs fan, I'm going all in on the Ravens.
Yeah, I have the Ravens in second place. I don't know. I see there's a lot. I think there's a lot of correlations from this season to last season. One, they have question marks at running back. Last year they signed Latavius Murray, Devontae Freeman, and Le'Veon Bell to their backfield because of injuries. This season, Gus Edwards is on the PUP list. J.K. Dobbins, we don't know when he's going to be available or when he's going to be 100% back to his true self. They signed Kenyon Drake and Mike Davis, two veteran running backs that are way over the hill. And I think it's kind of the same thing as last year. They're signing veteran running backs that they have to depend on. Then you have the lack of weapons like they did last season, except this season it's even worse. They lost Marquise Brown. They didn't do anything to replace him. All they did was basically hope that Rashad Bateman takes a leap forward. And they always have Mark Andrews, but the receiving, I know, and they also don't depend on the passing game as much. But I think if Lamar wants to get paid, he's going to have to show that he can also win in the pocket on a consistent basis. And he's done that maybe on a regular season basis, but in the playoffs, he's struggled. And I just think the contract is also a distraction from the team. When you have your quarterback tweeting out stuff, that's a distraction. That's something that you don't want to go into the season having to deal with. And both sides probably want to get this contract done. But it doesn't look like it's going to get done before the season starts. And Lamar has said that he doesn't want his contract to be discussed during the season. So Ravens, I don't see them winning this division. I think they don't have the weapons Cincinnati does. I think the offensive line is better for Cincinnati. And I'll take Joe Burrow every day of the week over Lamar Jackson.
The Ravens are bringing Ronnie Stanley back for offensive line.
I don't know. I think they're way too dependent on Lamar Jackson making these highlight reel plays. And when they don't, I don't think J.K. Dobbins is going to be back to his true self for a majority of the season. Running backs coming off a torn ACL the season after it's kind of slow. Kind of saw with Saquon. They just don't really trust their knee yet. It kind of takes them a year to get back. And that's for the Bengals. I just think, they improved their major weakness of their team. Their sole weakness of the team was offensive line, and they figured that part out. Joe Burrow's in another year in this offense. You have Jamar Chase entering his second year. T. Higgins, another year in this offense. Joe Mixon. I do agree with you that the defense did overperform last year. But I think this offense may take another step forward. I don't think it's a Super Bowl team. I still think – but I do think it does win this division. I think they can win maybe 11 to 12 games, the Bengals.
The Bengals could clearly have a great year. I'm not going to lie about that. I could see them having a great year. I do think the defense is going to drop off. It's sort of just it's a gut feeling with some thought of just like Eli Apple. Like, come on, players like that. But back to the Ravens. I mean, Lamar was going to win MVP last year if he didn't get hurt. He was playing at a phenomenal level. He was carrying them, and they're going to be better this year. Defense will be way better. I really like this Ravens team. I love Lamar this year. I think this is his prove it year. Watch me. Everyone who says I can't win, look out. I'm in on Lamar. Lamar Jackson MVP. Calling it.
All right. So with that, we'll move to the
best division.
Yeah, the best division. I think it's no discussion. The AFC West. And, I think this division can finish in any order. I wouldn't be surprised in any particular order how this division finishes. Who do you have finishing last?
Now, when I say this team's finishing last, just know a part of me feels like all 4 teams are going to make the playoffs. Would I bet on it? No, but I really feel it's possible. So I have the Raiders at 4. So they have a new coach in Josh McDaniels, who's good, but he did not do great last time. They got Devontae. They got Chandler Jones. I mean, they're going to be awesome. I just truly have them at 4 because, the O-line's not great. The defense is a little inconsistent. But they're still going to be a team. If you put them in any other division, you'd be legitimately talking about them winning the division. It's just AFC West is that good. And being a Chiefs fan, it sort of sucks. The Raiders, who I think have finished last, are just probably like a top 10 team in football. It's absolutely insane how good this division is. I still think mathematically it can happen to where all 4 teams make it. I like Carr, I like Adams and Renfro. It's just the only thing, the O-line and just the defense fix inconsistency. I think that's enough in this division where if you have those issues enough where you'll finish last. But still, Raiders, top 10, borderline top 10 team.
Yeah, I think Raiders also finished last. Let me ask you. So when you talk about Derek Carr, what quarterback rank is he in this division?
He's 4, but he's someone who I would say he's a Super Bowl quarterback easily. It's just he happens to be with 3 better quarterbacks. It's nothing against him. It just sort of sucks. You got maybe best quarterback Mahomes, Herbert, who I think could be the best quarterback here in a year, and Russell Wilson, who is probably closer to Russell Wilson than some people think, but Russell Wilson's done it longer. He's done more consistently. He makes more highlight plays. So Wilson is better, but there's not much you can do when those are your 3 quarterbacks competing. If he was great last year, carried that team, if they win division, he could be MVP candidate. All 4 of these quarterbacks can win MVP if they win a division and a style that's in a certain way. So it's no disrespect. It's just it's where he is.
Okay. What would you rank their offensive line in this division?
Probably 4th. I think the Chiefs are clearly the best. Chargers have improved. Broncos is probably actually 3rd. Now I think about the Broncos, I'd still rank Raiders 4, but Broncos and Raiders, the line is each it's not on the level of Chiefs or Chargers.
Okay, then defense. What would you rank in this division? Raiders. Is it the worst division as well in this?
Probably,
or worst
yes.
Defense? Yeah. So when you take those 3 things into account, I'm not saying Derek Carr's bad. I actually think he's a very good quarterback, but I think he's the 4th best quarterback in this division. I think they clearly have the 4th best offensive line, and I think they clearly have the 4th ranked defense in this division. When you take all that account, I just don't see them. I don't think there's any scenario where they win this division. I know that I said I wouldn't be shocked in any order, but I do not expect them to be winning this division. I expect maybe the Chiefs or the Chargers or even possibly Denver wins this division. But Raiders, to me, I think they're going to be so dependent on that offense. And that was the thing that Chiefs have been dealing with for a while now with Mahomes. Offense is great. Defense is pretty underwhelming. There are stretches where the defense is great, but if people are going to make arguments why the Chiefs are overrated or whatever because their defense isn't great and they're too dependent on the offense, you can make that same argument for the Raiders this season.
I think the Raiders' big key will be Chandler Jones because they have Max Crosby, who I feel I really like Max Crosby. He just goes and makes plays. If Chandler Jones could stay healthy majority of the year, those two alone could be what pushes Raiders from 4th to maybe 2nd. I
See,
think those two are very huge for the team.
outside of those two, though, who on that defense keeps you up at night or scares
Well,
you?
no one, but
I think
those
it's
two.
those two on the defensive line, and then the rest of the defense is pretty average in my opinion.
Mhm.
I don't see, and especially in this division when you have to defend weapons on these other teams.
Mhm.
I just don't really see it.
I just think that their offense may be the best in the division. Devontae, Renfro, studs. Josh McDaniels. It'll be a very close call, but those two pass rushers could be huge, and it would have to require some luck. I don't think they're going to win. I think they're the least team I'd win the division. But if Crosby and Jones are each wrecking havoc week in and week out, that could be what propels their defense to be slightly above average defense, which then could push them higher in the division.
All right. So who do you have finishing third?
I have the Broncos finishing third. I think they have a very solid roster all around. I don't think they have too many stars. You have Russell. Sutton could be a star this year. We'll see. They don't have too many notable names along the offensive line. The thing is, they're the Alabama corner. He's completely
Patrick
losing.
Stain.
Patrick Surtain could be a star. Bradley Chubb, I think, is just like a pretty good, not a star. I like the Broncos, but I'm more excited by the Raiders. But I feel like the Broncos will be slightly better because I just trust Russell a little more, and I trust they do have like Javonte could be a star, but they seem they're less star heavy, more consistency. So they're not a sexy team to talk about, in my opinion. But I do like them as the third best team in the division. And I think this division's clearly having 3 playoff teams. So yes, I have Denver making the playoffs.
Yeah. I think they may have the deepest roster in this division. But to be honest, this whole offseason I've been saying that they would win this division, but I've kind of flip-flopped. I do have Denver finishing third now. It's nothing against Russell Wilson. I know a lot of people are low on Russell Wilson. I think he's very good. When you look at their first 8 weeks, I think they can start. They can start the year very well, going possibly 6-2, 7-1, something in that range. But when I look at these other teams, I think these other teams just have more. They've been together longer. They have more chemistry. And then when you look at Denver's weapons, who I like. So Javonte, I think he's a surefire weapon for that team. I think he's going to be great. Sutton and Judy, they both have had injuries in their career. We haven't seen them really stay healthy, and we've already seen Tim Patrick go down. So if one of them happens to go down, I think that could be a major issue for Denver. But defensively, I love their defense. I think that they have 2 other juggernauts in this division they have to deal with.
No, same here. And I know we're both Chiefs fans, and I know that we've been teetering on this, and I'm doing this non-bias, I presume, non-bias. But I do have Chiefs winning the division with Chargers right behind them in second place. And I'm going to talk about the Chiefs first. It's just we do have the coaching advantage. We have Andy Reid, best coach. We have the best quarterback as of this moment. I love Herbert, but Mahomes is better at this moment. Herbert has a little more to be better than Mahomes. And I just think this is going to be a different Chiefs team, but I think I'm going to enjoy it. This may be a fun team to really watch. We struggled last year, and we're one bad half away from the Super Bowl, and we beat that Rams team, in my opinion. So it's really about Mahomes connecting with Kelsey and then just sprinkling it around, which I think he'll do. And with this defense, Chris Jones, stud. I really like L'Jarius Sneed as a 2. If McDuffie and Karlaftis work, Frank Clark, never been a fan, but he's lost a lot of weight. Nick Bolton and Willie Gay, really good duo in the middle. They sort of off-balance each other. Willie Gay, speedster. Nick Bolton, thumper. I think this could be a huge Nick Bolton year. So when I think about it, I trust the consistency of the Chiefs slightly over the Chargers because the Chargers are a little wonky every once in a while. And I'm thinking this could be a great year from Mahomes. Not his best statistically, but maybe by the eye, the best Mahomes year we have seen.
Yeah, I think Mahomes at times felt the pressure of getting the ball to Tyreek Hill and, making these highlight plays. And I think that's part of the reason why we saw, the early season struggles last season for the Chiefs. But I think Mahomes now, the pressure's kind of off of him. He's kind of just, he's kind of just a guy playing Madden. He can go wherever he wants. There's really no pressure. There's not a true number one option on this team outside of Kelsey when you look at the receiving core. So I really think that I don't think there's not that much pressure on him. And also people are also, I think they're kind of sleeping on the Chiefs this year, which there's not really big. I don't think there's a target. I don't think that there's a target on the Chiefs back this year. I think they've been the hunted for the last 3 or 4 years since Mahomes got them there. But I think this year, they're kind of hunting. They're kind of on the attack. So I think I also have the Chiefs in first. I don't know if you mentioned it, but I also think the Carlos Dunlap addition was also a very underrated addition just for that pass rush. It kind of takes the pressure off George Karlaftis. He doesn't have to come in as a rookie and, record 9-10 sacks. I still think Karlaftis is going to be very solid this year. I think he can get, 7-8 sacks and then get a lot of tackles in the backfield. But I think Carlos Dunlap, because Frank Clark, I don't think he's going to do much. So I think Dunlap can be very solid, get 9-10 sacks this year, help out that defensive rush. And with the Chargers, we already see injuries with J.C. Jackson. He could potentially be out week 1, even though I still like the Chargers to win that game. I'm not sure if I trust Brandon Staley yet. He was on, I think he was talking to Peter King, and he was saying that he's going to have the same mindset this year, going for him, fourth down, being aggressive. But I think there's a time and place for that. Sometimes you have to take the points. You can't always worry about just scoring touchdowns and try and be the highest scoring offense in the league.
No, with the Chargers, as you're saying, the Chiefs, people are sort of overlooking them, but I think the Chargers are the one team, which I love the Chargers this year as a team, obviously not as a Chiefs fan, but I love what they could do this year for their team specifically. Herbert's probably my favorite quarterback to watch outside of Patrick Mahomes. I just love watching him play. He's so good. The O-line's good. You got Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. People are really talking up Josh Palmer this year. The defense, it's similar to the Raiders. J.C. Jackson's hurt. That's big. But you get Derwin James, injury prone. Joey Bosa, stud, injury prone. And they added Khalil Mack, injury prone. If you're telling me all 3 of those players are healthy all year, if you just guaranteed me that right now, I'd probably pick Chargers over Chiefs. But something's going to happen probably. And they're just a little wonky, as you said, with Brandon Staley. But, man, I like the Chargers a lot this year. I just think the Chiefs are having one great year. It will be down to the wire. I don't remember the schedule on top of my head. But if there's a late week Chiefs-Chargers game, it will be possibly the game of the year. It will be something to decide the best division in football. And
I do know the Chiefs play Chargers week 2 and week 11.
Okay, so it's nothing too late, but still, those could be game of the year games. And I'm just really excited. I'm really excited.
Yep.
All 4 of these teams are good. And if the Chiefs win the division, which I believe they will at this moment, it'll just make it even sweeter beating all these great teams.
So before we close out, who do you think comes out of the AFC as a Super Bowl representative?
I was talking really high on Lamar. AFC stacked. Love Lamar, love Mahomes, Herbert, Allen. I can't give you a full straight answer. I'm not going to go Chiefs. I think Josh Allen gets it done this year in the playoffs. I'm saying Lamar Jackson gets the MVP, but in the playoffs, I can see Lamar playing great. But the Bills are just better, and Josh Allen is the better quarterback than Lamar. And I think they're a little bit better than the Chiefs, and the Chargers are just not exactly there with the Bills. But it'll be close. So I'm going, as I said, Bills-Packers Super Bowl. I don't know who I'd pick. I'd probably pick Bills at this moment, and it sort of sucks to pick against the Chiefs. But to not go Super Bowl, I'd probably go Josh Allen, gets his revenge, sort of like the Chiefs did when we lost to the Patriots, and then we won the Super Bowl. So I'm Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl. What about you, man? What you got?
I'm pretty split on Bills-Chiefs. I think whoever gets a 1 seed probably gets there. I'll probably say the Bills. That'll probably be my Super Bowl pick. So I'll probably say Bills against I'd probably say the Eagles or 49ers at this moment. I'd probably say that. I'm not, huge believer in other NFC teams. I think they're good. I don't know.
Those are not common picks from the NFC. But man, I'm just excited for Thursday, man. And then Sunday, just get to watch football along. It's football time, man. It is football time. I am excited. It's the best time of the year.
Yep. Well, that concludes our first episode of the LazerBros podcast. We could potentially be here next week just talking about a week 1 reaction. So stay tuned. All right.